Hello people, I am the Old Comic Book Gamer. Today I'm going to be talking about how I got into Deathstroke, how I first started reading the character and really got invested in him, because as most of you guys know, he is my second favorite comic book character of all time, right behind Superman. I love Deathstroke, I think he's awesome, he's a really cool character. And how I first got into him was, I was at my comic shop, and what he used to do is, when he got, the comic shop owner, when he got new back issues in, he wouldn't put them all, where they go yet, he would have them on like a table or on a desk somewhere or something, to where you could go through all the new back issues before he put them in their rightful place. And so I was going through all of them, and I saw this cover with Green Arrow on the front, and I like Green Arrow because of Justice League Unlimited, and so I was a fan of Green Arrow. I hadn't really read any Green Arrow comics, but I knew of Justice League Unlimited. I was like, oh cool, something with Green Arrow, I'll read this. It was a Deathstroke issue. It was Deathstroke issue number 39. What really drew me into this book was the cover. It was very intriguing. You had Green Arrow on the front with his bow drawn, and then you had Deathstroke right behind him with a gun pointed to the back of his head. So I was like, oh man, who's this guy that looks pretty cool that got the jump on Green Arrow? I gotta find out what happened in this issue. This looks very interesting. And so that's what made me pick it up, because the cover was just really intriguing with the scenario that happened. I was like, man, I want to know what happened here. And so this book came a little bit after a huge Deathstroke story, which was World Tour, and it's a great Deathstroke story. I really enjoyed it. And there was a few issues in between World Tour and this, but that was like a huge storyline. And so this was just a self-contained story. It was a really good story. It's a great single issue by Marv Wolfman. He did a fantastic job doing this contained story, and that's great for me because this is my first time reading Deathstroke, and so I had no clue what was going on as far as Deathstroke in that point in time in his career. I didn't know what was going on, so it being a self-contained issue, I understood pretty much everything in the book. I didn't know who half the people were, but I understood what was going on because it wasn't connected to another storyline or anything like that. So the issue starts off with Green Arrow sitting in this building across the way from another building that holds a guy that he calls the Death Doctor. This was this guy that killed a lot of people in his time as a doctor, and every time he would just be like, oh, they wanted me to assist them in suicide, and that's all that happened. It wasn't me killing people, but it was actually him just killing people that were perfectly fine. And he was hired by the mob to do that a lot of times, and so he decided to become a snitch. And so he got, WITSEC and everything like that, and so he had a bunch of police officers there to protect him. And Green Arrow was talking about how he'd love to kill this guy, but he was also hired to protect him, so he's just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And then we go to Slade Wilson. We see what's going on with Deathstroke. Deathstroke got a call from a guy named Baron Winters, who is this sorcerer guy that's got a really cool, spooky, Scooby-Doo looking mansion. It looks like somewhere like the Mystery Inc. gang would go and investigate a ghost. But anyways, they go there, they get this whole spiel from him. I'm not gonna go into everything about it, but it involves like a cannibal that can see visions. And so they go to him, and he tells them this big story about it. Always like, he sees that there's this one guy that's a US senator that had hired Dr. Death before. Well, that guy is in the future is going to become president. That's what this cannibalistic psychic said. And so you need to go and stop Green Arrow from killing Dr. Death, because in this guy's vision, Green Arrow kills Dr. Death, and that results in this US senator becoming president, who was this guy that had colluded with Dr. Death and was a bad dude and would cause a lot of bad problems. Deathstroke tells him, yeah, I don't care who the next president is, none of this matters to me, I ain't gonna do it. But then later, Deathstroke does his thing, and he actually does it, but he doesn't do it for Baron Winters. The reason he does it is because he says he does not believe in, predestination. He doesn't believe that your moves are already predestined, that there's no, really free will in it. That's what Deathstroke believes. Deathstroke even points out, he's like, yes, I know we fought with people that have super strength and x-ray vision, but that's different than someone being able to predict what you're going to do than predestination. He's like, I don't believe in any of that at all. And so that's why, that was his big thing. He doesn't believe in psychics or all that, and so that's why he wanted to investigate this. He ends up investigating it. Turns out Baron Winters lied about it all. He goes and he talks to Green Arrow, and we get that moment from the cover where he puts his gun to the back of that. He gets the drop on Green Arrow, and he puts his gun to the back of Green Arrow's head, and they start talking, and they have a good conversation. Then they realize that they were both sort of being used by the same person. But what I thought was really interesting about that was the fact that 90% of comic book covers, I'll say, don't have nothing to do with the inside of the book, or at least somewhere around there. There's just stuff on the cover that's just meant to intrigue you, but does not happen in the book at all. But in this, it actually happened. So I thought that was cool and interesting that we actually got that moment from the cover where Deathstroke gets a drop on Green Arrow and has a gun pointed at the back of the head. That actually happened in the book. And yeah, we get that part's pretty cool, to where Deathstroke's got his gun to the back of Green Arrow's head, and he just tells him, he's like, if I wanted you dead already, you wouldn't have made it through the door. And Green Arrow's like, yeah. And so then they start talking, they realize they were both being used, and they get to the bottom of it. And then Deathstroke goes and he talks to Baron Winters. Well, first they team up and they go and get Dr. Death. We don't get to see it happen, but we hear it happens. So they go and they get Dr. Death and they throw him in prison because Baron Winters wanted him dead. And so then when Deathstroke goes and talks to him, he makes a mistake and he talks to him in his domain at his house. And since he's a sorcerer and he's got a weird looking, just like a weird spooky house, he ends up getting drugged and just nothing happens to Baron Winters when Deathstroke confronts him. But we do see at the end that Baron Winters considers Deathstroke an incorruptible man, which I thought was really interesting, because nowadays current Deathstroke is very corruptible. He's got no morals about anything. And just, you pay him enough money, he'll do whatever you want. Ever since around like New 52 that started, to where it's just, he's all about the money, no morals or anything. He doesn't have his own code of conduct. No, that's not him. So I thought it was interesting that back in the day he's considered an incorruptible man. Now, not so much. But yeah, that was how I got into Deathstroke, and that's how he became that's how I got into him and started reading a lot more of him, and then he eventually became my second favorite comic character of all time. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, you can subscribe and hit that bell to get all the notifications for when I upload. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, I grew up with a prenup. Mama said keep my C up. Now noticing I'm getting caught cracker and getting beat up, but I stayed up long nights, working hard on my craft. Gave a fuck about the bullies or anyone in my path.